In the 23rd century, humans have colonized the solar system. For decades, tensions have been rising. Earth, Mars, and the Belt are now on the brink of war. All it will take is a single spark. That's how the Expanse started way back in 2015. Join us as we flip and burn as we say goodbye to one of the best sci-fi series ever. Sasake? Hashtag Screaming Firehawks, let's do this! Yeah, now look at us. Yeah. We have a little intro and stuff. I don't know if I'm center, but yeah, there we go. So welcome to Geeks with Kids, the geeky podcast from a parenting point of view. I'm your host this week, Eric, and I'm joined by Baratna in crime, Hawk. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Not too bad. A little sore today in that. I got my jab though.
Oh, you got boosted.
I got boosted.
Is this booster one? I don't know if we're getting another booster. I assume we are.
Probably.
Yeah, that's fair. But nice. You're not feeling down or anything right now? Like you don't have the...
Surprisingly, started out a little sore in the arm and that. Had a little bit of a headache and that, but I thought this was going to carry on for the day, but I'm already actually starting to feel better.
Nice. Yeah, when I got mine like that night, I was just like, oh my God. I'm so sore and I'm starting to feel down. And then I was out for like 2 days. It was wonderful. That was that, you know what? Because I had Pfizer first and I felt a little bit ill. And then I had Moderna second and I didn't feel ill, but my arm hurt a lot. And then Pfizer again, that's the one I was just like, oh, I'm going back down. I'm down. Yep. It's happening. Oh my God. So that's awesome. We're going to... Ooh, Brent's in the chat calling us sexy motherfuckers. And apparently Moderna fucked him up. I didn't. I was fine. It just really hurt. Like I felt it go in. Like Pfizer, it just went. I got poked. It went in, and I was just like, okay. But when I got my Moderna one, I felt it go in, and I felt them squeeze it in. I was like, oh, that one feels thick. I don't think a shot's supposed to feel thick.
My first shot, felt nothing. Sore arm later on. Second shot, again, felt nothing. Had no reaction, not even a sore arm. But this one, the Moderna shot I got, I could feel it. I could feel it once it was in there, and I could feel the squeezing. And then afterwards, and that is like a sore arm started to develop, like within a half hour. My God, of getting it. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about The Expanse, which originally premiered on December 14th, 2015. It's a sci-fi series based on the series of novels by James S.A. Corey. That's a pseudonym for two writers, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. The series has received near universal praise, was canceled by Sci-Fi, then picked up by Amazon Prime, and then finally finished its sixth and final season on January 14th, 2022. If you've been catching our watch parties on Fridays, you saw the emotions. I mean, Hawk went through during all of those.
We felt every single thing that was happening on screen.
I kept our finale one because that was the one where we were like the most extra, I guess the kids would say. Extra. So maybe one day I'm just gonna cut in like various parts because it's timed up, so I could totally just be like us crying when Bobby went for. We'll talk about that later.
Oh my God!
Brent was saying you never felt the thick shot. Hey, wait. They tend to be sticky. I see what you went. I see what happened there, you son of a... Anyway.
That, it's Geeks with Kids by night.
It is. Oh, yes. I should have put a fireplace like background behind me to make it nice and sexy. I should have got a brandy and everything. Anyway, well, like we do every show.
We'll get smoking jackets for next episode.
Embroidered ones. So like we do every show, we're going to talk about the things we are currently hyped about, what we're loving, what's good, Hawk.
Oh, I would love to say like it's some obscure show nobody's ever heard of and that, but truly the one thing that has been bringing me joy every single week is a new episode of Peacemaker.
Fuck yes. That show is so good. It has no right to be as good as it is, and it's
Like the belly laughs I am getting from that show, I haven't had in a long time. I find things funny and like haha and that, but like it makes me question what kind of a person I am in that I'm laughing as hard as I am watching him go through that rampage in that warehouse in the last episode.
When he shot that old lady with the shotgun out of nowhere, I died. I was like,
Obadiah asking him, be cool, just play it cool. Hello. Damn.
That was cool. You know what? It's funny, but it's also endearing at times. I've never thought it would be as endearing as it is. Like, I feel bad for him.
Him sitting on the porch and, stroking his, with his eagle and that, and just being so like melancholy about everything going on in his life. Yeah, you have no right to feel as much sympathy for him as you do.
Eagle is so good. Like, it's the best looking CG character I think I've seen. Like,
I know.
Oh shit, sorry. Brent hasn't seen it, so we're gonna keep that spoiler free. The eagle is not a spoiler. Yeah, Amazing. No. Also, Peacemaker shoots people.
Yes. Lots and lots of people.
It's so violent. It's so violent and amazingly violent. All the actors are great in it too.
Right? They all have amazing comedic timing in that. The leader of the organization. Some of the best laughs I get are just from his straight man reactions to how incompetent this crew is.
I've never seen him in anything, and I really like his delivery on everything. Like, the whole cast is amazing. The girl, like the regular team, is the one we saw in the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad. So it was So it was nice seeing them take an expanded role, because I thought they were good in the movie, but they're excellent in here.
Yeah.
There was a scene in the last episode where there was like John Cena just started spouting off names like in a list, and it was so good. And that some of those were like improvised, obviously, right? They had to be.
Apparently a lot of it, if not all of it, was improvised by John Cena. And I got to give a big shout out to him, because apparently he has had a rough road in that, trying to get like a role in a superhero movie and that, he's faced a lot of rejection in that. And the fact that he's got this role, which was, largely like a B character, but he plays it with such love. He loves playing this character, and you can tell. You're suddenly muted to me, Eric.
Yeah. So 100% you can tell. I definitely didn't just start talking with the mute button on. Shut up. It's my joy of every week. And if we could stream it at a watch party, I would. But I feel like it would just be us dying laughing. And yes, Brent, get him right now. Watch him right now.
He wants to save him for.
No, he said he's getting it right now. Which is good. Yes, we've converted him. Yes, go watch it. Yeah. There's one other show, and I want you to maybe do a watch party with me. Maybe we'll get Brittany, because The Legend of Vox Machina came out last Friday on Prime Video.
Yes,
and it is so good.
The first 3 episodes. Oh,
you watched it?
I have watched the first 3 episodes. Oh boy.
So
I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but wow.
So what would you say if I asked you to pull on my motherfucking beads? Pull on my motherfucking beads.
I'd say like he did an unbelievably good like James Brown.
Yeah, the cast, like all of them are amazing voice actors, obviously, because they're voice actors. But
I saw the list. It's like incredible. It's like voice acting royalty.
Oh, 100%. I just like, it's nice seeing this campaign wasn't shown on their Twitch. Like they were part of Geek and Sundry before they jumped off and did their own Critical Role page. So it was nice seeing a campaign that we never got to see, but we got to hear about. Like they had alluded to certain aspects of the story. Like we knew about what happened to Percy, like because they had talked about it, but we had not seen it. And the fact that you get to see all this history of these characters that we've like been listening to, like their stories for the past, what is it, like 6-7 years now? It's crazy. Like it's just crazy. Do you have a favorite character on there yet? And why is it Percy?
Percy is a good character.
No, it's not Percy. Percy's not my favorite.
I'm seeing a good.
Scanlan is my favorite character, to be honest.
It's probably Vox. I'm still learning names.
The girl.
I just watched some.
Vex.
The brother.
That's Vax.
Oh, Vax. Okay.
Vex is the girl.
So, yeah.
Don't worry, they get them confused too.
For some reason, I really like Vax. The sleight of hand and that. Does he have actual magic, or is he just, mostly like just?
Do you want me to spoil anything? Because you don't really want me to spoil anything. Because
I don't want anything. I don't want spoilers.
The best is just. My favorite moment in the first episode, and I was talking to Stu about this, was when Vax is like, look for was it Percy? Percy or Vax was like, look for a fulcrum, and Grog goes, a fuck room? And I was like, oh my god, yes.
That's what I didn't expect from this show. And that I'm not a watcher of Critical Role or listener, and like the fact that they took this D&D thing and approached it in the same way they did like a show like Invincible.
This is basically what they are like when they're, because it's just a bunch of friends playing at home. So obviously they're trying to make each other laugh, and the stuff that just comes out of their mouths. They're also like really good friends. Some of them are married to each other. It's just I can't imagine what it would be like for Matt Mercer to be, because he was the DM of the game, for him to actually take this campaign that no one has seen and actually tweak it the way that you wanted it to be, like to actually perfect it like that. That's got to be amazing for a DM. Oh man, that show is so good. Sam Riegel plays Scanlan, by the way. Phenomenal singer, phenomenal actor, best character Scanlan. Prove me wrong, internet. You won't. Oh my god. So that's what's good. The news. Microsoft has been all la-di-da about their acquisition of Activision. So PlayStation Studios today was like, you know what? Let's buy Bungie for $3.6 billion.
Unbelievable. And it's so confusing to me, because we're talking about in the messages and that, it's like, so they're not buying Destiny in that, which is basically what Bungie is right now.
They bought the studio, but the studio's like, you know what? We're not just going to take away this, multi-platform, game, because it's built on all this.
It belongs to the multi-platform verse, and
it's been like that for what, 6 years, 8 years now. I don't remember when whenever it made its debut onto PC and then Xbox. It came out on Xbox the same day as PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 came out 8 years ago when I got married-ish. Yeah.
Well, now the first Destiny came out for the PlayStation 4 first, right?
Yeah.
That was 2014.
It wasn't timed exclusive. It was the same time. Yeah.
Anyway, no, yeah. And then so they've been working off of Destiny 2 since 2016.
16?
Yeah.
6 years. Oh my god.
6 years. And like their whole goal has been to provide, to have like seasonal content ready like year after year after year, instead of actually working on like a third Destiny or a new IP at all.
Well, it looks like they're going to be building on new IPs, because any new IPs will be PlayStation exclusives. But Destiny, I like that they've decided to keep this. It's like when Microsoft bought Mojang, who does what's it called, Minecraft. Minecraft is still multi-platform, but it's, I guess, better on Xbox. I don't know what the thing is. I feel like PlayStation has had exclusives with Destiny pretty much since the beginning, right? Like we've usually gotten like content first. I'm saying we because we're PlayStation people.
Yeah, but weapons and stuff that weren't made available to Xbox or PC users and that. So yeah.
Well, it's sort of crazy because Halo was originally created by Bungie. And now we have the full series trailer for Halo, which I assume Bungie would have some sort of creative input to it, or at least
I suppose.
I don't know. Or this 343, because Microsoft owns the IP for Halo, but you'd want some of the original creators, wouldn't you? I don't know.
Like at least the original story writers and that behind it. They should at least kind of get involved in an executive producer category.
Yeah, I don't know. The trailer looks really good. Like Visually, it looks really nice. They've added some characters that I don't know. Some human characters. There's going to be more Spartans, which I enjoy, because Halo has mostly been a solo outing, right? It's you against the world as Master Chief.
And that world is usually filled with aliens that you're blowing apart. So.
Exactly. And it can't just be one person the whole time. I mean, it could, but that would probably be boring.
It would be in that, and I think it would, and the fact that in the entire trailer you don't see Master Chief take off the helmet at all,
which is good. I hope they never take off the helmet.
It follows along the paths of a certain other property that we're all enjoying right now.
Exactly. Oh my God. Do you know who's playing Master Chief? Do you know? It's
No.
Pablo Schreiber. Do you remember who that guy is?
I love Pablo Schreiber. He's a great actor.
It does not sound like him at all. Like Master Chief's voice sounds like Master Chief, and I love that it's him. He's like six something, so
he's had a long career of television and roles that I really loved. Season 2 of The Wire, he was one of the prime actors in that.
I gotta watch that still.
Porn Stash in Orange is the New Black was probably the best character in that. It didn't make it to the end of the series, but still some of the best moments in that, even though he was a total garbage person.
Yeah, but he was good at being the garbage person. And then he was on American Gods as Mad Sweeney, and he was phenomenal as Mad Sweeney. Even though that show took a dive after season 1, technically, season 2 was not great. Season 3 was even worse.
His whole backstory episode was fantastic.
Oh,
that, as an Irish person in that, with an ailing mother right now, it really brought out some tears.
Oh man. Brent is asking us a question in the chat. He's saying, "Are you really not going to talk about the dramatic reboot of Fresh Prince, which is starting on Wednesday?" I forgot that was starting this week, and I don't know if I want to watch it.
I'm not. It had its place and its time in history and that, and it was largely driven by the fact that at the time I was a huge fan of
Will Smith, right?
Will Smith, yes.
I don't like, if they had this show, they should have had him, like Will Smith, as the uncle, right? Like that should have happened. That
would be much better than just basically, transporting it to a new time and locale and that, This is why I don't know. This is why I was wondering if the reboot of the Wonder Years is going to do well in that,
It's already out. Is it not?
Yeah, it's out. It's out already. I just don't know if it's kind of gotten like a good reception or not.
See, they went back to the 60s for that, and I really wanted them to do what they did with the originals, go back 30 years and see the 90s. I would have loved to see the 90s. It's weird to say that now, but I would have loved to see it. Lots of baggy pants and stuff.
If you're curious about that, then you should probably, did you watch Yellow Jackets yet?
No, not yet. I don't know. I don't have Crave, and it's only on Crave, so I'm gonna have to, either buy a Blu-ray or find it. Or I was debating getting like my parents' login for Crave and just be like, can I borrow this for a little bit? Yeah, they have my Netflix.
It makes it so much it makes it so much better when you basically share a membership on that.
Exactly.
Memberships have to be a communal thing now and that, because it's very expensive. Having multiple platforms like I do in that, but it makes it worth it when you can just share it among other devices and that.
It's true. Speaking of sharing other devices and stuff, we used to have a Spotify account up until last week, like a premium Spotify account. A number of people have been protesting Spotify for, Joe Rogan and his podcast. We decided to cancel our premium subscription because we're like, we only use it a little bit. We might as well move over to the Apple infrastructure because we all have iPhones, and the Apple One subscription, which has Apple TV and Apple Music and the video games, it was only like a couple dollars more than what we were paying for Spotify. And I was like, and it's 5 people instead of 2, which we had on Spotify. So we're like, there we go. Now I don't have to have all my suggestions in my music be like Bluey. Oh, well, no, it will be Bluey. I meant it wouldn't be like Blue's Clues or all of Encanto over and over again. It'll be other things too, which, my Spotify, like when I would go to my Discover playlist, it would just be like, here's JoJo Siwa again. I'm like, daughter. Why? Why is all my music taste change? It's so confusing. But now I'm the Apple one. I'm still trying to get used to the interface. But yeah, I decided to go that way. Oh, bye, Brent. His internet is crapping out. That sucks. Thanks for coming by.
Brent.
We
love
will.
you.
You can listen to us when we release this and talk about how. Hopefully, we won't be crying the whole episode, but you never know. We are going to talk about.
We're just going to be gasping and fanboying, basically.
Yeah, because we're going to be talking about The Expanse. Hawk, did you want to say a little bit about what the show's about?
Well, you asked for a summary, and this is what I could come up with that was non-spoilery in that, but basically gives everybody a background if they want to know what they're getting into. So, in the summary, 3 nations fight for survival and control of our solar system: Earth, Mars, and the Belt. Earth and Mars edge closer and closer to war with each other, and their hatred of each other is well entrenched. Mars was supposed to be a paradise thanks to the terraforming efforts of brave humans who traveled there centuries ago to build a livable world. Soon, though, Mars wanted its independence. Earth would not relent in claiming sovereign domain over Mars and its people, so Mars ceased its terraforming efforts and created a navy. Technologically more sophisticated than Earth's navy, but always outnumbered, which kept the war from ever truly happening. Martians hold on to a very bitter grudge with Earth. They look back with disdain on Earth for ruining its environment, killing their oceans, and polluting their own air. This, after generations of Martians living under domes for survival, trapped in a Cold War that ceased all hope of creating their new Eden. In between them, the Belters, generations of people who are born and die in space, never being able to touch the surface of a planet because their bones and muscle density from 0G are crushed under their planet's gravity. They are slaves to Earth. They are seen as wild, uncultured, and disposable. Their compliance comes under threat from the UN navies, which could destroy an entire space station on a whim. The Belters have no true governance and are largely ruled by the OPA, considered a terrorist organization but headed by a former Earther and a UN naval officer, Fred Johnson. And the story begins with a mystery. A young woman named Julie Mao who barely survives an attack on her ship and her crew and watches in horror as one of her crewmates is absorbed by a terrible sentient energy feeding off the reactor of her ship. Our first introduction to what we will know as the Protomolecule, the solar system's first contact with intelligent alien life.
Yes, that's a phenomenal outline. Yes, that was much better than me reading the little Wikipedia intro. The show was created by Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostaby, and it's showrun by Naren Shankar. The cast is phenomenal. The main cast is Stephen Strait as Jim Holden, Dominic Tipper as Naomi Nagata, Wes Chatham as Amos Burton, Sheree Agadashlu as Christian Avasarala, Cass Anvar as Alex Kamal, Frankie Adams as Bobby Draper, Kara G as Kamina Drummer. Who else do I talk about here? Thomas Jane as Joe Miller. The other people are sort of in and out, so I don't really think there's anyone else we really want to. The cast is so good.
It's a show that really it will give a good portion of its showtime to characters who pop in and then sometimes tragically pop out of the series.
Yeah.
But that's the core of the series is what you have described in that. Stephen Strait, Holden, Naomi Nagato, and these are the ones we form the family around.
Mm-hmm. How did you end up start watching? I for me personally, I started watching after season 3. I had heard that it got canceled on Sci-Fi. I didn't really hear about it before that because we don't have Sci-Fi in Canada, and I don't have cable, which I assume it was on Space. Anyway,
yes.
My brother-in-law read the books and was like, "You have to watch this show. We have to save the show." And then it got bought by Prime. And he's like, you have to watch it when it comes back. Make sure you watch it when it came back. And I watched it when it came back. I was like, oh my God, this show is good.
It's still the smartest thing Bezos has done with his money.
Yeah. And he's the one who announced it, I believe. He was the one who was like, we're bringing back The Expanse. And everyone was like, what? Amazing. I know your story because I was part of it.
You are the story, basically. You said, Hawk, trust me. You gotta trust me. You know me. You know my taste. You gotta watch this show.
Because the 5th season was starting, and I was like, you have to watch it. It's coming back.
Even though I had tried. I had started on the first episode, and I got halfway through and it was like, I got other things to do right now, and it sat at that halfway mark for months, I tell you.
Yeah, and then you got it, and I was like, just get through it. It's a lot. The first, I know personally, a lot of people that I've talked to, the first episode's very hard to get into. Do you know, what do you think about that? Like,
so I wrote down a few things in that I thought were kind of like the impediments of people really starting the show and that. So it's a cadre of new people, and they're all separated by different locations and that. And it meant that there was a lot of learning to do if you wanted to get in on the show. And that, you know, some of it takes place in deep space. Some of it takes place on a space station. Some of it takes place on Earth and that. It kept a tight lid on most of its important secrets and that. And, you know, when I say secrets and that, the main thing I'm talking about is the Protomolecule.
Oh, by the way, so before we get into this, we are going to end up spoiling a lot of stuff. So if we haven't convinced you to watch the show by now, just go watch it. Just watch it and then come back. The Protomolecule is definitely the main crux of the first half of this series. If not the whole series. We'll talk about that later. Yeah,
but like it throws you the first episode basically throws you into a mystery in that, you know, feet first. We see like, you know, the effects that it has on the, you know, whoever comes near it and that. And also, you know, we have this mysterious element in that we don't know about, and that destroys an entire, like, you know, spaceship, and that the Canterbury. You know, so
but we don't even know that that's what happens, right? In the first episode, we just know that a ship has shot nukes at it at the Cant.
A ship that can't be detected normally.
And Cass is like, oh, Mars, and so you initially are like, oh shit, Mars is starting a war. I find it like the first episode is a lot about, it's like chess, like they're putting all these things in place. You put Miller on, God, which space station is it again?
It's Ceres. He was on Ceres as a cop.
Ceres. No, but this is Eros that he was. Isn't he in Eros in the first?
No. I had to double check this because there's a plethora of stations in that operate in this show. He was a cop on Ceres station, and he was kind of a hard boiled and bitter, probably dirty cop.
I had my hair off to the side, like the sides of my head are shaved, and I had my hair combed off to one side like his. I was gonna do that on stream, I forgot. So they're placing all these people in all the spots, but they're not connected yet. So it's a lot of, why are these people doing these things? Because it doesn't seem like a cohesive story, or at least it doesn't seem connected. Like, we know that there's tensions with this war based on the crawl at the beginning of the first episode, but you're like, okay, so we have Avasarala torturing a belter. That's cool. I guess cool. Aaron writes like, don't do that. And then we have Miller and his partner trying to find this missing girl. And then we have Holden and his people on the Cant just hauling ice at that moment, and then finding that distress beacon. So I know it's a lot of placing things that are important later on, but there's nothing like super actiony at the beginning. There's like there's the chase, like the hard burn was a very exciting moment, but a lot of it is people I feel like see sci-fi and totally expect an action type, you know, show. But this
either
is
that, or they're looking for something they haven't seen before, right? You know, and on first glance you could say, I've kind of seen this before. I've seen this before.
Yeah, but it's nothing like you've seen. Like the where it goes, I had no idea where. Like, I really wanted to read the books after seeing the first 3 seasons, but I didn't, because I was like, I know that the next 3 are coming, and I don't want to spoil it. There's that idea of, do you want the books because it's so true to the idea, or do you want to watch it first and then get the full experience later? Which I think for some people is better. For me, I think because I had already seen the first 3 seasons, I think that was the choice. Yeah, like for Harry Potter, I read the book first, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read the books as they come out, and then watch the movies that come out, and they're all pretty sort of close.
I'm like on the fence about whether to read the material beforehand before watching a series and that, because basically, like, after the first season of Game of Thrones, I devoured all the books.
I did that too, actually.
it really colors you going forward in that, what it, like, it takes you a little bit out of a series in that, because you're basically like, pinpointing stuff from the books, and it's like as soon as you start critiquing it against any written material in that, you're not really enjoying a show that much.
It's true. And like they did really good. Like after I read the books after the first season, I was happy for like 3 or 4 seasons, and then we ran out of book material, so it sort of just veered off. That's our Game of Thrones rant. Secondary Game of Thrones rant. When the last book came out to now, all of the Expanse has come out. So all 9 books of the Expanse. The first book came out the same year as Dance of Dragons, and then the other 9 books came out. We still haven't had another Game of Thrones. So
yeah, and they promised the 10th book this year.
Yep. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, back to the Expanse, because I'm just gonna be sad about Game of Thrones.
There are a few more points I had to make in that about like how when people trying to get into this and that. One of the things I got to point out in that is like we do have 2 great characters in that, from Shorag Dashlu and from Tomjane.
Yep. Veteran actors,
but Tomjane being the only, and Shorag Dashlu being the only recognizable talent, but at the same time they were on a not like an A-list kind of career in that, but kind of stuck in the B-list, especially Tomjane in that, who had basically he had been struggling a lot of years in that, between like his role in The Punisher and Tahir in that.
But he had that TV show where he was a gigolo. Didn't he have that? What was that show?
I remember that. I think I watched maybe one season of it.
I think that went on for a number of years. What was that called? Was that him? Hung.
Yeah.
2009.
You're absolutely right. Hung.
There's only 2 seasons. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, so it's all sort of like bit parts, or he wasn't really a lead, but in this one he took the lead, and you know what? I don't know. It's hard because they're all sort of leads. Like you want to say like the Rossi's crew is the lead in the first season, but it's sort of all these people, because like I was saying, it's all chess pieces. They're all really important. One's not more important than later. One does become more important later on, like the crew of the Rossi ends up becoming the main focus. But in the first couple seasons, it's sort of everyone is important.
Absolutely. And that might make it a little more difficult for people. And that it's like, who do we root for in that? Because when you look at Miller, like the character of Miller in that himself, in that he's this earther on a Belter controlled space station, and that being a cop and that, and he's not liked, and he doesn't even really like himself in that. So I mean, as a character, he is hard to want to root for in that. But at the same time, you got to invest the time in that, because by the end of it in that you are loving him as a character. And Tomjane's performance,
phenomenal. Him as Miller in regular Miller and him as Protomolecule Miller, still pretty the same, but sort of different a little bit. I don't know how.
Very different.
It's hard to explain. I know that like when I watched it, I immediately I liked it. I knew it was a little hard to get into, but I also, the first Battlestar, the miniseries movie was long. Like I know it took a lot of people a long time to get it. Many people who watched the series just started with the first episode of the series and went forward, but
that's the movie how before I got hooked onto it.
So when I saw this, I knew that it was special, and there was something different about it as a sci-fi series. I don't know if you got that same feeling when you started watching it after the first episode.
Definitely. And like going back to characters and that again, it was the same thing with Shorag Dashlu's character and that Christian Avasarala and that, we were discussing her earlier in that, and, one of your favorite moments from the show and that, and it's like, again, set up as a character that you probably don't want to root for in that. And yet at the same time, when you invest that time and we see where her story goes in that, she becomes your favorite. She
is amazing, and the fact that she connects with her fans so frequently, and she's so good on not Instagram, on Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
She liked one of my tweets that I was just like a nothing tweet about her, and I was just like, well, I won the internet. I don't have to go on anymore.
Conquered the social media.
Give me my plaque now, guys. She liked my tweet. I think another thing that I really liked about the show is that it had this lived-in feel. I remember when George Lucas was talking to me about Star Wars. No, when George Lucas talks about how he built Star Wars, he wanted everything to feel old and like there was a history behind everything. He didn't want everything to be shiny and new, like you would see it on Buck Rogers or things like that before. And this show, like you immediately jump in and everything feels real. Like you look at the ship, like the Canterbury feels like an oil rig. Like it felt real. The space station, while it looked very pretty in the first season, it felt like you can see the grunge behind all the niceties. It looked like a regular city. Each of the people, each of the societies, the Belters, Mars, and Earth, all had a backstory that didn't feel like just a little, shoved in one. Like I loved that the Belters. You felt all those long-standing tensions that they all had, and even just looking like the production design for all three societies, like the Belters, their tattoos, the language, the Creole that they spoke. Like I remember watching it for the first time, I was like, I have to put on subtitles. I don't know what they're saying. And then I read the subtitles. I was like, oh, they are actually speaking a different language, but it's close enough to English. Like Creole is close enough to French and English that people can understand it. But the Belter one had extra stuff. And I love that it felt real. It didn't feel like it felt very based in, when I hear it, you say Creole and that, but what I hear is basically like that kind of emerging like dialect from like the UK and that, it's specifically kind of influenced by immigration from South Africa and that. And, it's like the way kind of youth culture kind of starts to change in that with that infusion of new cultures, right? You've seen, like, I think you saw that new Guy Ritchie movie and that, The Gentleman. I still haven't finished. I haven't watched it yet. I want to, but I still haven't had a chance to. Baby. But like even when I watched, what was it? Not Lockstock. What was the one after Lockstock? Snatch. And you see Brad Pitt's characters, and you're like, what is he saying? And you're like, oh, they have their own dialect-ish. Like, phenomenal. Yeah. Like they actually like the people who made the book and helped with the Creole phrases, they actually released like a bunch of guides for people, and I love that they did that. Like
I came across one word in that I couldn't remember. I had totally forgotten about it. In that Goyo.
Which one's Goyo?
It was mainly though. It was like with Amos and the Belters and that when remember the insurance scam on the passenger ship.
Oh yeah.
The one Belter guy kept calling Amos a Goyo, and I was like, I forgot about that expression.
Oh, was it Goyo or Koyo?
Koyo, actually, that sounds more like it. Was
Koyo. Koyo is guy, dude. Sometimes small animal or pest, disrespectful. I'm reading the guide right now.
I love this.
I'm gonna send this to you as well. Also, the Belters had a sign language. I don't know if you remember. They didn't do as much in the later seasons, but they would do like cutting motions, which means low oxygen, or they would fold both arms against their chest, which means no, don't do that and stuff like that.
Like they work in space all the time and that, and maybe like there are times when they can't.
When they have no comms. Exactly. Right. Especially like the tattoos on their neck, the black ones that are lines around, like they're supposed to mimic the burns that the old Belters would get because their helmets were so shitty that they would get burn marks around their necks. Like you could see it on some of the older characters that were Belters. Like what's his name? Ashford had the burns. The dude at in season 6 that joined Drummer, I can't remember his name. The one who did the collision. He had the burns as well. So like all of it, like I've always wanted a tattoo. And seeing like they have like this whole like guide to what was important to each of these. So Amos also had Belter tattoos as well, but also some other tattoos, even though he was from Earth. I'm gonna ask you this in a second, but so they had like all the symbology about all of these tattoos on the show. Like it wasn't just them drawing pretty symbols. It was everything had a meaning, and that's what I liked about the show is that everything everything was
everything has meaning.
Everything is meaning.
You might think of it. There was no kind of throwaway characters, even when they introduced a new character in that maybe did 1 season, 2 seasons at the most in that. They were vital. They were important.
Mad props, to Naren Shankar for doing that, right? Like, not just importance to characters, little people, but the design of everything. Like, everything was based on real world physics. They actually brought on physicists and astrophysicists to come on the show and be like, is our science right? Like, we want to make our ships, real. Like, and like, you see this in the first episode. And I think that's what was really important for the show, is that it felt really like everything felt real. Like, they had to, their propulsion was done in bursts so that, because they don't need to, right? You send something flying forward, it's just going to keep going in space until they, either reverse or they slow down with some sort of alternate force.
Which is really confusing when you're like, kind of like if you're a sci-fi person who's grown up on like Star Trek and that, it's like you have a certain idea in your head about the way ships operate in space, but then you get into a series like this, which is what, we're referring to as hard sci-fi and that, and it's confusing. Like, as I'm watching this show and I'm thinking, it looks like the ships are, the drive is not where it's supposed to be in that. Why is the drive pointed towards the planet or the station that they're heading towards? And then, once you get into the physics on it, you realize,
they have to stop.
They need to do this, because if they don't, they'll just keep going and
go through it. I think one of the best. So there's a YouTuber called Dr. Becky. She's an astrophysicist on YouTube, and she explains different things. She's talked about the different telescopes that have been on Earth and like their importance, and she reviews science in movies and TV shows, and she did The Expanse, and she was talking about how crazy it was that, in regular sci-fi, people are like, oh shit, we're going through an asteroid field, we're worried, but she's like, there's a ship in the first episode, it's the little escape pod that the Rossi crew's on, and it's going through all this debris, and it's the little bits of debris that are more important than the bigger ones, because the bigger ones just are like, they can dent it and then bounce off, but the little ones can puncture your ship and kill someone, or depressurize the whole thing. And she's like, that amount of detail is not regularly seen on any TV show, and like. You should watch, like, everyone out here. I'll put in the show notes what Dr. Becky did an amazing job.
Dr. Becky
of like talking about it. She talked about how you watch the ships in space and they're constantly turning, and it's because that's how they're building gravity on their ships. Like, the things that they had to think of, like, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And again, it leads us into the question about like hard sci-fi in that, it's like, what do we consider hard sci-fi in that? And it's like, it's the real, these real world implementations of what it'd be like for, to be, for our species to be out in space and that, versus like, the Star Trek Enterprise, we love it and everything.
I would love it.
But like, it's a luxury cruise liner in that in comparison to like real world space exploration. We have oxygen concerns to consider in that. We have like gravity concerns in that too. Water. It's like, remember in Battlestar in that, like how daunting that one episode was when the water tank was exploding. They took that same approach here in that,
but it was for the whole series.
The whole series.
I love, like, even like, we'll go off of that. You were saying that the Belters, they don't have the same muscles or bone density because they've been living in space their whole lives, and they talk about this. They show it when they go to planets, and it's amazing. Like, there are treatments available in that, and I love how the medicine in the show in that is trying to kind of follow like things that are happening now as far as medicine and that. It's like ideas that we're conjecturing now. Become like an implementation, like, many centuries now in there, 3D printing and that, like nanotechnology. I feel like you were saying, like, everything feels like it would be an actual evolution of where we are. Like, I would love us to get to that utopia of Star Trek, but this is way more realistic. A culture that's based on, exploiting different people, corporations making money and controlling everything, like the Pierre Mao and the Protomolecule storyline where they were trying to not only weaponize but monetize the protomolecule. Like that felt 100% real.
I know, and it's so weird because it's all of this is not just about money and anything. It's about survival and that because it's like we're faced with Earth, which is considered basically a dying planet.
Yep.
Its biggest currency is arable soil and that to transport into space for belters to be able to grow crops. But at the same time, back on Earth, there are 30 billion people in that, and 80% of them do not have jobs because there is nothing for them to do there anymore.
I know we didn't put this on our favorite lists, and you had mentioned it the other day, but there's a scene in the first episode, we're talking about soil, where the XO of the Canterbury has broken all of his plants and put it on the ground just so he could have his feet feel soil again, because he'd been in space for such a long time that his mind just went nuts. Oh my God.
Yeah. Played by the great Jonathan Banks.
I thought
from Breaking Bad. When
I saw his name in the credits, I was like, "Oh, it's cool. He's gonna be like our Ty from Battlestar Galactica." And nope, he was there for one episode. And he's gone. That too.
Oh yeah. But that again, another genuine consideration about space exploration is like the loneliness and like the isolation of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And this show explores everything so beautifully.
So we had talked about the protomolecule being a major part of the story, and it pretty much was the major like the idea that the story was based around for the first 3-ish seasons, and then we sort of moved to the war in the last 3. What do you think about that change between the protomolecule has always sort of been there, but I think it's sort of sidestepped in the last 2 seasons. What do you think of that idea?
Its role changed from season to season in that, because like basically in the first season it starts out as our big bad, like our ultimate bad, like as the series go. If this were Game of Thrones, it'd be the White Walker and that.
Yep.
But its first 2 seasons were like about the eradication of it and that before it could do the damage that that it was capable of doing with if it ever came loose and got in contact with like Earth or anyone really. Not just it wasn't even just about organic matter and that this thing could develop like anything it touched.
Yeah.
Into itself. But its role changed as season to season to season and that, with the end of season 3.5, or was it 2.5?
3 was when the ring came in. 3.5 is where the ring came in, really.
Yeah. So 3 at the beginning of 3 was like its descent after its descent into Venus and its exploration. So I'm thinking it was the end of season 2 is when we saw the thing emerge, right? Remember the squid thing emerged out of Venus once it had got a hold of like the materials it needed.
when they killed Adam Savage from Mythbusters. Who's a big fan of the show.
It just needed that ship because it needed to learn how to make a spacecraft in this solar system.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then the expansion of itself into the ring, which was its central programming. The protomolecule, it changed from season to season. And it's like it became less of a threat and more of like this, like a destiny. I really get the impression that the protomolecule is destined to basically just become
part of it. Yeah, you were saying that during the finale. I like your comparison to the White Walkers from Game of Thrones because they were pretty much the major bad guy for the show, pretty much the whole run. But the bigger bad by the end was something that was lying underneath, and that was Daenerys, right? And we could say that was sort of what the Belta War ended up becoming, right? Because the tensions had always been there the whole time, but we had always assumed that it was sort of Mars that was gonna cause shit,
right?
But it ended up becoming the people that were the lowest, the Belters, that were the biggest threat.
And it was really easy to see them. Like it was really easy not to see them in that becoming the big threat. Because but as a society, they were like Tinder. They were just ready for that spark and then the show gives us that spark in season 4.
Oh man. And Marco Cineros was having someone tied so heavily into the cast, into the crew of the Rossi, like it made it even more.
Oh yeah,
like more emotional. Especially Naomi's. It was her husband and child who's leading this resistance, or I don't want to say resistance because they were sort of terrorists, but yeah.
It basically, yeah, I know. It not only expanded like Naomi's backstory to like an incredible degree, in that it's like because our first he represents like the OPA in the season 4,
but a more extreme version of the OPA.
Right, because like our first 2 examples of the OPA were like, Anderson Dawes, who was like kind of the ground level guy, and I can't remember the actor's name, and that he's a fantastic actor.
Chad Coleman.
Chad. No, that's Fred Johnson.
Oh, that's Fred Johnson. Sorry.
Anderson Dawes was
I don't remember.
He was from Mad Men and like all these other great shows and that. But anyways, he was kind of the ground level, behind the scenes guy. And that Fred Johnson was like the face of the OPA, trying to make it legitimate in that. But then you introduce Marco Inaro in that, who is basically a fanatic.
But we also
the power.
We also met Kamina Drummer and Ashford through the OPA as well, and they're a different like version of that. So you see all these like people like, and Drummer ends up becoming one of my favorite characters, right? So everyone's favorites. And to see her like come from that, we had always seen them as fringe, I guess, the OPA in the show, especially in the first couple seasons. But to see her take like, you start to sympathize with what they're fighting for, right? That what they're fighting for is something that's meaningful and it makes sense, but the extremes that Inaros took versus what Drummer or any of the like Ashford was sort of like a mini Inaros for a short period of time. It's sort of hard. Like it's hard to describe. They're very great characters. Like they're not just bad or good. Like even Inaros, like we felt bad for him at times, but his evilness, I don't want to say evilness, but his extremism outweighed any sympathy I had for him.
I know. I mean, like, we dismiss them in that because like we don't see them because they don't have their own navy and that they don't have planet and that it's like these typical things we associate with power and that and yet he at the same time he shows them like the power of the belt and that and the craftiness and ingenuity in taking inorganic matter, like say meteors, and finding a way to use those to wage war and wage war on a level that even like in a war between Mars and like Earth and that they could never have just the sheer mass volume
like
of his destruction.
It's crazy how I don't want to say he's not crazy, but he's very calculating. Like I know he's not crazy because he's super smart in what he does, and he knows that there's an effect on it. Is he a little bit crazy?
He's a little bit crazy, but like his main downfall is his own
narcissism for sure.
Yeah, because like it doesn't become about the cause for him anymore. By the end of it, it's about him and his need to his struggle to retain the power that he has, despite losing odds in that. Because you note that in season 6 and that things start to go really downhill for him.
Yeah. His idea, like he wants respect from everyone. I think when he starts losing that respect is when he starts really losing it, and I love that about him. The show was, like I said earlier, famously canceled after season 3 on Sci-Fi, and then got picked up by Prime Video. There are people on the internet that have said that you could really tell the difference, but in a bad way. And I was like, I don't see anything bad that has happened in the last 3 seasons. Sure, the last season was 6 episodes, but like I would have loved to see more. But we're in a pandemic, and it's sort of there's a lot of stuff.
It makes everything so much tough, especially like a show like this and that, which wanted to maintain like really good production values, and that is especially in its outgoing season, and they just couldn't do it, on the scale that people would want to see. And everybody wanted 10 episodes. Everybody probably wanted 12 episodes. Yeah, I wanted 12 episodes. I wanted like
12 episodes. 10, even 10 would have been fine. I like the 6 that they did. I feel like that last episode could have been 2 episodes though.
Yeah, especially the way they did it in
Yeah.
the show, and that because they gave us like an ending, but again, it doesn't feel like an ending.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was kind of the important thing. In fact, it sets up more questions than it answers.
Yeah, and I like that.
Which
as
was
a show.
brave move,
Mm.
a really brave move.
Well, let's talk
any
about
series.
that. Let's talk about the Laconia storyline in season 6. What did you think about it? Like, to give context, in the 6th season, we get introduced to a colony that's on the other side of the ring on a different planet called Laconia, and we meet this family that's settled there, and there are all these creatures that are, let's say, inhabiting the area, and they have special powers. Throughout the course of the 6th season, we find out that they're sort of tied in with the Protomolecule, these aliens, and dogs, which this girl who, God, she frustrated me so much, but she was such a good actress because I knew that her point was to frustrate me. Oh my God.
Yes.
Through the course of some tragic events, her brother ends up dying, and she takes her brother to these dogs to have him revived because she had seen a dog do that to a dead bird. Mm-hmm. And it sort of ends on that point in the season, and we're like, what? Her brother comes back, and he definitely, when he's seeing things, it's definitely what we saw Miller, like Protomolecule Miller, see when he was looking at people and stuff. Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's stunning in that, you basically learn that the is, not exactly what you think it is, and that because it manipulates inorganic matter. It certainly manipulates organic matter.
Maybe it also became life itself. Is that what?
It has definitely influenced the course of life, and that whether to a rapid degree, to a maybe it took a long time, but these creatures are basically creatures born of the protomolecule.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've seen with the protomolecule, and that it's like life and death are basically the same thing to it. And
I'm really looking forward to reading the last 4 books in the series to see, because apparently the storyline is continued in the future. So for those who haven't read the books like me, but know about the books, the first 6 books are what this storyline is of the Expanse, but the last 7 to 10 are all set 30 years plus later, which is incredible. I hope they do a series like that, because I would love to see what happens in this world in 30 years time, because
I can see it. I can see it happening, and that, I mean, the word of mouth on really good, and that it's and as long as we have people like yourself and that who are willing to torture and then alienate their friends into watching it,
damn straight,
yes, there is a good chance that we could get us maybe some movies or maybe a spin-off series on it.
Well, we definitely have a video game coming out this year, I believe. Telltale's doing a prequel video game centered around Kamina Drummer, and they brought Kara G back to do the voice. Oh my God, I love those games in general, but having an Expanse version of that, who am I going to airlock? Everyone. Why not?
Oh, you have to set an example.
Exactly. You need that respect, damn it. Show everyone. Show Fred Johnson that you want to be
what it means
2.
to be true belta.
True belta, not a well walla.
No.
Oh my God. Man, I could talk about the show forever, but let's talk about our 5 favorite moments of the show, and why is your whole list about Amos and Avasarala. So tell me, what are your go through your 5, or do you want me to go through mine 5 first?
I'll go through my 5
yeah
first.
Go for it, guys. Yeah, go in no particular order.
Particular order. So I believe this came in season 2 in that, but Holden basically uses the Rothanante in threatening an entire squad of MCRN ships, who fire upon this ship called the Somnambulist, who's escorting refugees from the Ganymede station in that. And it's one of those character moments in that where you just feel the chills go down your back and that, because Holden holds firm in that this is the warship Rothanante.
He's very stubborn.
He is very stubborn in that, and he basically describes the no-win scenario that they are in, and that his ship is capable of destroying theirs as much as theirs is capable of destroying his, and he's like, And knowing the whole time that they'd save their bullets in that because they had another war to do.
Yep. Oh my God, that's such a good scene.
All right, so,
you know what? How about I do one? We'll go one off each other.
Trade off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my first one, it happens in the first episode of season 1, and it's the scene where Avasarala is torturing a belter using gravity, which is incredible. We talked about how belters have different bone density and they're not used to gravity. So obviously having someone hung up on hooks, just standing like in our atmosphere, would be torture for someone.
Yeah,
their spines obviously crushing down on it, and Avasarala is just
their lungs are being basically collapsed under a weight of gravity.
Exactly. So you know that this lady who had been introduced just the scene prior as this grandmother tickling her grandson, playing along. She's like, "Oh, I'm just part of the UN. I'm gonna have to help someone," and then she goes there and tortures this guy. Oh man, it gives you this idea of this character right away, how brutal and amazing she is, and you know that there's something you have to watch out about this character because there's something underlying that she serves a purpose and she knows her purpose, but it might not be to the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, and you're so thrown off again, introducing her as a grandmother and that, a doting grandmother and that. Not just that, but so regal and so well attired. And
she's dressed so like elegantly. So you're sitting there like, how is this person who looks like a queen? She is a queen, by the way. Just there, like calmly. It's not even like she's angry at this belter. She's calmly torturing him, and that's scarier.
He has something she needs in that, and she knows exactly the means to do it to get it.
Exactly. Oh man.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
So let's see. Another one of my favorites from season 5 when Naomi has to do the spacewalk without a spacesuit.
Oh, this scene was so. We watched this scene together. Like we had been streaming this at this point, right?
I think we were well into season 5 when we were doing like watch along episodes for it. It was fantastic because this had represented like a previous scene of hers, and that it was her and her interactions between the other actor Jim Beaver and that who played the older man in that who knew her from her previous life and that.
Was that Jim Beaver?
Yeah. Oh wait, not Jim Beaver. Sorry. He was on Deadwood with Jim Beaver, so that's why I get that.
I was like, Jim Beaver was also on Supernatural. I don't think that was him.
No, you're right. I can't remember his name right now.
That's okay.
But anyways, that he had saved her once previously in that when she was at a low point in her life and that, and saved her from doing a spacewalk. Then meaning commit suicide and that. And he ends up getting taken out as well in that. And her intention wasn't even to commit suicide in that. It was basically her Naomi mind and that, she's, her character is a genius. We know this and that. She was sent off to university to learn and that, but she's still belter at heart. She's faced with this impossible choice and that, and she chooses, her found family. She needs to save them from this imminent threat that Marco has set up and that. And without a spacesuit, she casts herself off into space and that over to that ship that's docked nearby. With just she has it all planned out. I can hit myself with a stim before I lose consciousness and that, and get inside.
Oh my God!
It was heartbreaking. You
could see her eyes like freezing. Yeah. Oh my God, that scene was so good, production wise, everything, acting wise. Brent Sexton is the character who played Sin.
Yes.
Or Sin, yeah, and yeah. Oh man, and you know that Naomi doesn't want to kill him, right? So she wants him to get out of there, but casualties of this, he's part of this crew, and he tried to get in her way of escaping. That's heartbreaking for her, and for her son who ends up seeing it.
I know. Yeah, because he thinks his mother basically has chosen suicide over staying with him, and that.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and that Marco made the situation so untenable for her.
Yeah.
That she needed to save her, her found family, and that found family is a really big theme in this show.
I think it's a good theme for everyone in everyone's life, because and we've been telling this to our girls, is that you have family by blood, but you also have family by choice, and they're both as important to your life as one another. Nothing's more important, right? My second one happened in season 3, episode 7, which is called Delta V. And in this season, we had seen the ring had been constructed on the far side of space, and no one knew what it was about, and no one sort of wanted to venture near it because it was created by the Protomolecule that everyone had.
Everyone was tepidly approaching this thing and not wanting to interact with it, and that.
Exactly. And apparently they have these belters that are doing these races around planets and asteroids and stuff and just trying to get better times. And this belter is like, you know what? I'm losing my girlfriend, but to get her back, I'm going to go right through the ring. And so he's
the first one to cross the ring.
He's slinging himself and going faster and faster. He's already hit like a milestone in speed, and he hits the ring, and we find out that there's a speed limit going through the ring, and everything just stops in his ship, and he goes like everything just explodes. I remember when I saw it, or the last time I was watching, I was like, Hawk, wait till you get to this part. You're going to lose your mind. You're going to lose your mind.
This is where the whole thing with physics and sci-fi comes in, and that. First off the bat, this thing, the protomolecule, it should be noted in that is something that does not obey the laws of physics in any way. In that, we see it first in season 2 with with Eros, where it transforms an asteroid into a spaceship.
Yeah.
And again with the ring and that the ring controls speed, but not that in the way you'd think that it's not like a solid object in that. So his ship doesn't end up pancaking. His ship basically ends up going through like the equivalent of Jello. But unfortunately for the guy inside and that,
who's very squishy,
his body obeys all the laws of physics that we.
Yeah, and he just sort of. No seatbelt is going to save him from stopping that fast.
Splat.
Oh my God. That was such an amazing moment. All right. What's your number 3?
Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this is where my introduction to Amos as a character in that. Not the first time we meet Amos, but when we first start to get to know who Amos is as a character in that. It happens in season 1, where basically their newly acquired Rocinante is about to be boarded by an MCRN patrol fleet, and Amos picks up a firearm and waits at the hatch and that for the first 2 to come in and that, because he is going to murder them because he knows he doesn't want to end up in an MCRN jail.
Damn straight.
Yep. And he's dead set locked, and he's ready to fire on the first person that opens that door. Holden, however, in that with his code and that and his morals, and he comes from such a different background than Amos.
Yeah, no.
He points a gun at Amos's head and says, kill those people, I will kill you. And Amos said, it's the same thing either way in that. So if you're going to do it in that. But it ain't stopping me.
Oh my God. Amos is such a good character. Like, I cannot give Wes Chatham enough props because his character was so good. And his character was so good that when we were picking baby names, Amos was on the baby name. And I was like, I love this character. I love this name.
Works for a boy or a girl.
Exactly. Well, it was just on the boy list, but yeah, it was there. My third pick is also an Amos scene. It happens in season 4, episode 3. So they're on New Terra, which is this new planet that they had landed on. That
also known as Ilos.
And there had been a number of disputes between the people who landed and then the corporation that had sent them. It's a big storyline that I won't do any justice.
It's very complicated.
It's very complicated. Yeah. But the leader of the corporation that had landed, Murdy, who's played by an amazing actor who's in
Game of Thrones. He was in The Dark Knight Rises as that little Weasley guy.
He was in Torchwood, which is where I knew him from. Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
What's his name? Torchwood.
Oh, I gotta look him up quick.
Torchwood. Oh, why? No, not Doctor Who. Why are you there?
Played by Vern Gorman.
Vern Gorman. God damn. Yeah, you got it. He was phenomenal. He was such a good guy in Torchwood, and then everything afterwards, he's been playing bad guys.
He's a bad guy and everything else. Yeah.
So Amos is sitting there eating in the mess. Murdy's sitting there eating in the mess, and they sit down together, and Murdy, who's very, I don't want to say abrupt, but he's very to the point. He's very
he reminds me of that old British colonialist attitude.
Oh
basically.
yeah, I could see that red coat type. Yeah, you shouldn't be here. This is my land. That makes sense for that storyline too.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there, and Murdy says, "Someday, you and I are gonna end up bloody." Something like that. It's someday. I believe you and I are gonna end up bloody. And Amos just still eating his food, looks at him, he's like, "How about now? I'm free right now." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, that's awesome!" And the look that Amos gives him, he's just like, "As a matter of fact, we can do this. It's gonna happen anyway." It's like you were saying earlier. He's like, "It's gonna happen." Just I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this scene because I love
many
it.
Amos moments, there's so many Amos moments in that. I had to go back and watch one scene in that between him and Miller. Remember after Amos killed his buddy, and that after his buddy pulled a gun on Naomi, and that Amos just put him down like nothing in that, you know. And then Miller came on the ship because they had the mission together, and that, but basically he's on a ship with the guy who killed his best friend. Right?
Yeah. The
scene in the cafe between the two of them and that. Miller's in there looking for something in the drawers, banging around and that, and it's like you'd think a normal person would tiptoe around in an uncomfortable situation like that. Amos gets up and walks towards him and that, and drags his cup of coffee across the counter very noisily and that, and gets right up in his face, and it's like, you and I need to talk.
Yep. Oh my god. Did we ever find out why him and Naomi were so close? I don't recall. It just sort of seems like they'd gone through the ringer together, and that's just why they were close.
It's weird because they weren't connected. They weren't romantic in that. No. Although even Amos said if she said yes, I'd give her. I'd do it.
Why?
But Amos seems to need someone in his life who has a moral compass, in that, and that explains a lot of the relationships he forms throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
He always gravitates towards somebody who's good, and that he hates bullies. I know that for sure. And that even though he could be the biggest, baddest bully on.
I don't think he would bully someone though, right? No. He would stand up for you.
Yeah.
But
you might not be, you might not like all the results of that, but he would stand up for you.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 4 for you.
Okay, let me see. I will say, let's see. I did. Okay. My favorite Avasarala moment. That, among the many, many Avasarala, in that it is her confronting Aaron Wright. That's
yes.
Yeah. And basically uses him to give a message to Jules Pierre Mal, who we know is behind the Protomolecule and all the shenanigans that go. But she asks Aaron Wright to deliver him a message, and that starts out pretty nice, but then gets into the consequences of what happens if he doesn't comply with it. And how she will basically turn his entire family into pariahs and that, and cut off all his financial assets and supports and that. And by the time he pulls enough strings and that to get rid of me and that, it will be too late. His family and that will be hunted and that, and no one will stop until every single one of them is nailed to the fucking wall.
Amazing. She was so good in that scene. But even like Aaron Wright, like Sean Doyle, we didn't mention him, but he's there for the first 3 or 4 seasons, and he's phenomenal and everything.
Right.
His storyline was such an up and down for me. Like there are times when I liked him, and then most of the time I hated him.
You hate him. By the end, you hate him.
And then now, yeah, for sure. And then now we have him on Discovery, so we get to hate him again in a different way.
I know. We get to like him and then hate him.
I don't think we've ever liked him, have we? On Disco?
I kind of liked him on Disco, and that he seemed to have like an interesting story in that, and like he was an interesting character in that.
I guess the first time we see him, I sort of liked him because he was sort of pushing Stamets's buttons and trying to make him think outside of the box, which I liked.
Yeah, we get the impression he was dangerous in that. It's like and anyways, That's a whole other story.
That's a different podcast.
I love this scene in particular because of the added dimension in that between the two characters at this point. And that she knew like Aaron Wright and was mixed up in Jules Pierre Mao's nonsense and that. And it's like, in delivering this threat to Jules Pierre Mao, she also got to threaten Aaron Wright without ever actually threatening him.
Oh man, Aaron Wright though after this threat does, some very despicable things. Whoo! Ah, man, the writing on the show is so good, and / books. My number 4, my last 2 are actually from the series finale, and it's a long sequence. I couldn't just pick one little thing because if you had watched our our watch along with us, my brain started exploding the minute they started attacking. So there's a section of the ring that's being sort of held down by a railgun station. And so the Rocinante and a bunch of other ships, go towards it, send off some troopers. There's Bobby and Amos and a couple other no-name people.
Managed to make it to the surface.
Yeah. So they go down, not to mention the amazing space battle that happens right before that, or at least them trying to get there. They land through this amazing sequence where you can see them flying through the air and all this shit is flying around them and exploding. Oh my God, the special effects in this episode. But they get down there. They're pinned down by the opposition and they're just, they're down there. But Bobby and all her badassery, opens up the hatch, starts gunning towards them, and Bobby's just getting fucking shot to shit, and her paint.
Like we know that power can take a punishment in that, but it's way too much. And she just but she keeps pressing on in that.
She pushes forward. She blows up the rockets, and the Rocinante ends up coming in to give some air support, and Amos is there, protecting her. I got you, Bobby. And we're sitting here watching and crying. And oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps because I love that fucking scene. It's so good. The last episode is so good. But it was so emotional. It's the emotions and like you're sitting there like, Bobby better not fucking die. Bobby better not die, because if Bobby dies, we riot.
I know. Jesus, and it was looking so.
It was so bad. We started to spoil it already, but it was looking so bad. Yeah. And I think like when I saw the Rossi come in and just give them some cover, I was like, oh my God, they're there. Look at that beautiful ship. I love that episode so much.
Oh, I know. So good in that, and like I love how it was an amazing callback to season 2 when we were first introduced to Bobby and that, and we saw her in that training exercise and that's exactly the kind of maneuver like trained to do in that, running to a heavy fire situation and that, just to get close enough to send off those remote missiles out of her backpack.
Oh, so good! It's so cool. Come on, I wonder how many people are gonna. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone cosplay as the Expanse people.
Yeah, it's a little, because there's not really one identifiable.
I would go as a belter for sure.
Right, because there's tattoos you could do in that, and I think they do have a bit of a uniform in that. Definitely like a lot of black. People like straps
and stuff. I think it would be easy enough to find. If you're out there and you cosplay as a belter, let me know, because I would love to figure out a costume. Yeah. Not that I'm gonna go to any.
Send us your pics.
Not that we're gonna go to any conventions anytime soon. Yay, lockdown!
Yay.
All right, you're number 5.
Okay, so my number 5 comes in season 2 at the
Sorry, you broke up there. What was that?
Oh, sorry. Mine comes from season 2, the halfway mark of season 2, when during the raid on Arrow's station and that, when Miller is left with a no-win scenario and has to carry a nuke inside the station and that, and he finally meets Julie Mao. And you realize that basically this old broken down detective fell in love with this missing girl, and this is really the reason he kept pursuing the mystery further and further into space and that, leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
And when he sees Julie in that, who's become one with Protomolecule and that, and but at the same time is still retained, she has no memory of who she, no memory of the person she was and that. She has instincts about it, and she remembers Earth and that. But like, being in connected with the protomolecule and that, she thinks that, she wants to go home and that, but doesn't realize she's taking the asteroid with her and that. But they're meeting, after like, a season and a half and that, then the mystery that brought him out into space and that, and like their interaction together as they both basically like, plummet to their death.
It's beautiful. It's this unlikely love story between these two characters that I'd never met, but still were very intrinsically connected through this whole time. And man, like we don't really see Julie Mao in the show, but you feel like you know her. Like you only see glimpses of her throughout the whole series, and
yeah,
man,
and then that's what made it such a great, like, kind of, that aspect of the detective novel and that, because he was investigating backstory and who she was, and came from this family of prominence, and she had a lot of promise, but she she didn't want it and that, and so she became part of the OPAs and the Belters struggle.
Mm-hmm. I love I love that storyline didn't just end with Julie dying, because we ended up seeing her father, Pierre Mao, really in the forefront for a while. And then Clarissa Mao, definitely for the last 4 seasons, was a very strong character. I'm going to give this is not my number 5, but I do want to give her an amazing scene that I just want to shout out. When she helps the crew in the last season, and she's passed out on the floor, and they turn her around, and she's like, "That's the first time they called me part of the crew." And I was like, "Oh yes." That was what she was more like happy about. It's not that she did her job, is that she's finally been accepted with them.
Oh, I mean, her whole storyline was like an incredible arc in that, and we should devote, we definitely could have devoted a whole section of this podcast just to her character. But,
yeah. Then we'd also have to talk about the reporter. She was also really good. There's so many like characters that have amazing storylines that we don't even get to talk. Do you remember Diogo, that belter that was sort of a goofy douche in the first season and then becomes like a hardcore OPA guy?
Yes,
later?
I remember him. Yeah, the one Miller was hanging with in that. Who told
Yeah,
story about Miller dying and that. He told me. And that, he tells this elaborate story, and that basically Miller just told him to go get himself laid, and that, and he turns it into this heroic folktale, and that with a mural of Miller and that. It's like the savior.
And then his ending, like he ended up stealing one of the power suits, right? That's how his demise was. Oh my god, Ashford doing his whole thing, and then his song at the end. Oh, there's so many good moments that we can talk. That's like in my top 10 was Ashford's final song. But my final one is from the finale again, which is called Babylon's Ashes. And at the end of the series, after the Naros situation has finally finished, Mars, the Belt, and Earth decide to sit down and hold formal negotiations to, they need to figure out the peace. And the only way they could do this is to create an independent trade union. But for that to happen,
transport alliance, right?
Yeah, something like that, because they need to figure out who's going to be controlling the ring and the transport in between that section of space to the other side of space. And they found out, they discussed that the only way is for this to be truly independent is to have someone that all 3 organizations would trust to run it.
Falls
Once
on
again,
Holden's shoulders.
Holden, the person who just happens to, he doesn't want, you see in the first episode, he doesn't want to be captain. He doesn't want this responsibility, but he's sort of thrown into it. And that's sort of his story arc throughout the whole thing. He just keeps on getting thrown into these situations he doesn't want to do, but he does it because I guess his moral compass is really good. I don't know.
He has a good moral compass. He was raised right in that, it's like, but yeah.
Wasn't he raised in a cult?
He was raised and basically like, I don't know, this like kind of it's a weird hippie kind of movement.
Yeah.
It's like multiple, he never lacked for family. He had multiple, mothers and fathers and that.
Yeah. They talked about it a little bit in, I think the first season was the first or second season. I wonder what happened to his family after the asteroids. I never really talked about that. Anyway, so they have him become president. Yeah, he becomes president, and at the first press conference, he's talking about what will happen with this trade organization or this trade union, and how they would work out everything. And as his first act, he's going to step down because his vice president is Kamina Drummer, and that this should really become an organization run by the belt, because that is what they do, and that they are the ones that need that. They know what to do. They're the proper people to do it, and
it's a job they've been doing their entire lives, and making sure these supplies. Because it's like we never really talk about it, but like one of the things that's vital to Earth is fresh supplies of water, and like the only way that gets through is like
the ice.
The belters help. Yeah, the ice and that gets through with the belters and transport everything and that.
Yeah,
And it's like it's like there was so much tension in that scene at the conference table, and that it's like nobody wanted to give concessions to the belt and that after whatever everybody had just been through in that. But at the same time,
they wouldn't have won anything without the belt, right? Like they couldn't
ignore them as a political power anymore.
And Avasarala, there's that amazing scene where Kamina Drummer and Avasarala meet in that hallway in the 6th season, and they're like, we're gonna work together. It's tentative because we still hate each other, but we have to respect each other. And the fact that they go to that table and they sort of respect each other, but they won't trust the belt in anything, even though they were there the whole time. And I assume the belt died more than anyone else out in that battle. So man, I loved it. The look that the talk that Avasarala had with Holden right afterwards, and she was just sort of
planned this from the beginning.
Yeah, she tried to dress him down. He's like, you know what? It's what it is. You gotta. You should have done this in the first place anyway.
I know. God. It's one of those great moments of like justice.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I'd hoped, and it's what I got. That finale episode is probably one of the best series finales that I've ever seen. If not the best series finale, other than The Good Place, I think it's probably my favorite one.
Nice.
Yeah. Any hopes for the future for this series? Are you looking forward to the video game? Are you going to read the books now?
Yes, I am. Oh, they're still sitting here.
So nice and pretty, hardcover.
First 3 novels and that, has its jacket with the Expanse, not the original cover, the actual.
Damn straight.
I just part of me doesn't want to crack it open.
I know.
When you have new things.
I'm gonna buy it too because that hardcover is very pretty. I like that they kept the original covers too. That's nice. And the fucking hardcover is only like $3 more than the soft covers. So why wouldn't I get the hardcovers? I'm definitely gonna read the books as well.
I love the respect they have for the novels and that there's managing market, the TV show in with, but actually still respecting like the original.
Yeah, that reminds me of The Beach. Remember that movie, The Beach, with Leo DiCaprio?
Yes.
I had the book for years beforehand because I loved the book, and then they made the movie, and I lent my copy of the original cover to one of my girlfriends at the time. One of my girlfriends. That sounds like I was a player. My girlfriend at the time. She took the book and never gave it back, and so I went to buy it again because I wanted to read it, and they only had the Leo DiCaprio cover, and now that's the only cover they have. And it's made me so angry that they have not released the original cover. Or maybe they have now. That was many years ago. I haven't read it in years.
That happened to me, but not a girlfriend I had. It was my best friend's girlfriend and that who wanted to borrow my vinyl copy of The Queen is Dead by the Smiths. No. And then they broke up and I never got it back.
Son of a bitch. It's like my original copy of Interview with the Vampire. Never got it back. Anyway, that's fine. I'm looking forward to the video game by Telltale. We had said that earlier. I'm definitely going to read the books. I'm hoping they do a sequel series, and based on everything, so Naren Shankar, the showrunner, has had a couple interviews, and he's like, you know what? Maybe he's like planting that seed in every interview he has. So I was like, oh, if you have something, just tell us because I want it. I want it now. Just give it to him.
Oh, maybe he has something like he's in negotiations and that he doesn't want to jinx it. At the same time, it's like just keep spreading the love and that. Spread the love for the original series and that. And we'll see what the future holds in that.
Exactly. I'm gonna give one more shout out for one more scene that I just happened to remember because I'm scrolling down the IMDb. It's when they go to the space station that was created by the Protomolecule, and it's Holden and this MCRN attack like team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Holden's up in the
Simu.
he's sort of yeah. So Simu Liu is the captain of this team, and he just gets obliterated. And I love that scene because I remember seeing it. I was like, "You're from Kim's Convenience," and then he dies. I was like, "Oh my god, you!" Also, Amma from Kim's Convenience is in the first season as the MCRN captain of that ship that gets destroyed. And she has a amazing scene where they're about to explode, and she's like, "I had no idea," and she's talking about like because they had so much pride that they had these warships, and they assumed they would never lose a battle, and they just blow up, and you're like, "Holy shit!" That oh man, she did such a good job in that scene.
I have to go back and rewatch everything now.
I'm rewatching the first season right now, and it's so good. It's so good. Except I keep on messing up the freaking station names because there's so many of them, and they're all names I know because they're based on the moons. Right?
Ceres, Talos, Eros, Ganymede. Oh, there's so many.
They're so close. Oh man. Any final things you want to say about the Expanse before we go?
Probably like it's. It's kind of reinvigorated a love of sci-fi in me, and that get a little burned out on shows and that which is probably why I the longest time in that because I was trying to I was coming up with reasons why like why in love with this show and that and it's like sometimes you start to pick things apart a little too much. Oh, they're trying to be a little Battlestar in that. Oh, there's a little bit of Killjoys in that and blah blah. Yeah, and it's like, you tend to think, it's a slow burner, it's a mystery. I'll just go find something more action-packed than that. But
it's so worth it.
It's rewarding in a way that a lot of TV series and and a lot of sci-fi isn't. That you have a great cast of characters that you end up really falling in love with in that, and it's like, and it gives you like Amos as a character is somebody, it's like you should just be afraid of in that, but like, again, they give you a little bit more here and there. We still don't know Amos in that, like he's so guarded in that. Do you remember? Okay, one of my favorite scenes was when he was teaching Avasarala how to work in space boots and that for the first time. Yes.
And he's talking about heels.
It's like go heel toe, like you're wearing high heels. And she's like, "How do you know what it's like to wear high heels?" And he's like, "I didn't always work in space." Yep.
Oh man. Although I love that there are still some mysteries in this. They didn't just spell out everything. But his backstory would have been so good. If there's anything I want to say is like I would love to see more science than fiction. Like I love that this is a sci-fi show where it's more science. And I don't think we've ever seen anything like that, and I really hope we get to see more. This reminds me of like I feel like this and The Martian could happen in the same universe, right?
Right? That's like The Martian could be the prologue for this show.
Exactly.
Or not the prologue, but the prelogue.
Well,
the Martian could basically be the first one of the first settlers.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. Like this, the Mars MCRN was all started with a potato poop farm. Like that. Yeah. That's all. That's our tagline for this show.
Yeah. Trying to make the impossible happen make the impossible happen in a place that should not it should not happen.
Amazing.
But that's the dream, and people are talking about it. We've heard about Elon Musk and that and what he wants to do. That he wants to start a colony on Mars now. Yeah.
And if
this is the beginning.
And if he isn't a like proto Aaron Wright, I don't know who is. Mm-hmm. So thank you for coming and talking about The Expanse. Like I love this show, and I'm glad that you got into it. For all you out there on the internet, what did you think of The Expanse? Have you watched it? Are you going to watch it now after hearing us babble on about it? I hope so. But let us know. Send us a message on our socials. We would love to hear from you. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching. We're going to come back in a couple weeks with something. I don't know what. We'll figure it out. I think Peacemaker is going to be done by then. So we might have to do an episode about Peacemaker because I'm sure by then we're just going to want to babble on about it. I can't wait. All right. Thanks, Hawk. Thank you, Internet, for coming and listening to us. We shall talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.